What you're about to hear will sound insane, but it's happening everywhere, every single day. A woman films herself sobbing about how men are dangerous while standing in front of a neon sign that says men are ATMs. Another one announces she can't find a loyal partner, yet her entire social media page is dedicated to thirst traps, swipe-ups, and paid attention farming. The delusion isn't subtle anymore. It's loud, confident, and proudly posted online like a badge of honor. The most surreal part is how these contradictions have become normal. Crying about being objectified while monetizing the objectification. Demanding respect while publicly humiliating every man who tries to treat them seriously. Screaming about independence while expecting strangers to fund their lifestyle. It's not empowerment. It's entitlement dressed up as activism. I watched a viral clip yesterday of a woman complaining that her ex stopped covering her rent. They dated for 3 months. She dumped him for someone flashier. Now, instead of learning from it, she calls him abusive for not continuing to financially support a woman he's no longer with. And the comments? "Queen, you deserve better." The internet applauded her irresponsibility like it was courage. This is the new belief system. Using someone financially is empowerment, but facing consequences is oppression. Every choice is celebrated. Every outcome is someone else's fault. A relationship fails, and suddenly the man was a narcissist. A situationship ends, and that becomes trauma. Personal responsibility has been replaced by victim branding. The psychological gymnastics behind it are wild, posting revealing content non-stop, then acting shocked when attention comes. Going out at 2 a.m., recording content in dangerous places, then claiming society is unsafe. It isn't fear, it's performance. Fear doesn't live stream. Fear doesn't tag the location. Fear doesn't pose. And yet, any attempt to point out the contradiction gets labeled as misogyny, fragility, insecurity, or toxicity. Not because it's untrue, but because accountability is now considered an attack. Reality has become offensive, so fantasy becomes the preferred lifestyle. The dating expectations are even more disconnected. Someone with debt, chaos, unresolved trauma, no stability, no discipline, and no contribution can still demand a flawless man who earns 6 figures, never complains, provides endlessly, and accepts disrespect with a smile. They bring nothing, but require everything. Existing is now considered enough effort. But beneath the filters, the slogans, the curated empowerment, there's a truth no one wants to acknowledge. The delusion is growing faster than reality can correct it. And sooner or later, the fallout is going to be brutal. Because this isn't just ignorance anymore, it's a mass fantasy, and everyone's pretending not to notice.
If the first part sounded exaggerated, wait until you see what happens when delusion meets validation. Social media turned into an emotional stock market where confidence inflates instantly, regardless of reality. A woman with no job, no discipline, no stability can post a selfie and get thousands of comments calling her a goddess, a queen, a superhero for simply existing. And after hearing that enough times, she starts believing she deserves a lifestyle she never earned. Then comes the shock. The world outside the screen doesn't treat her like royalty. Employers expect work. Men expect reciprocity. Life expects responsibility. But instead of adapting, she blames society for failing to recognize her imaginary value. I watched this unfold in real life at a cafe. A girl loudly complains that every man she dates is boring. Her friend asked what she contributes to relationships. She paused, confused, and genuinely answered, "I'm the prize." Not kind, not loyal, not supportive, just present. As if presence alone guarantees love, protection, and lifelong commitment. This mindset didn't come from nowhere. It's been fed by influencers preaching empowerment through entitlement. They tell women to never settle, while they themselves are single, miserable, and searching. They teach that standards should only rise while self-awareness stays at zero. And the contradictions keep piling. Women proudly talk about having a body count over 100, advertise it as liberation, celebrate it as success, then wonder why men don't treat them as long-term material. They call it maturity, but biology doesn't negotiate with branding strategies. Actions shape reputation, not intentions. Yet instead of acknowledging that, they rewrite the rules. Men who prefer modesty are insecure. Men who want loyalty are controlling. Men who value femininity are misogynistic. Every preference a man has is labeled toxic unless it benefits women. That's not equality. That's dictatorship disguised as empowerment. The financial delusion might be the wildest. Someone making $35,000 a year will demand a millionaire partner, not realizing basic math. A barista with 3 roommates rejects an electrician with a mortgage because he lacks ambition. A woman drowning in student debt laughs at a plumber who earns double her income. Degrees became personality traits, and trades became insults, even though trades keep society functioning.
But the entitlement doesn't stop at money. Some expect men to pay for their lifestyle before they even meet. I've seen women publicly demand cash transfers from strangers to prove chivalry. Random men should train to become providers by donating to women online. Not wives, not girlfriends, just women. And the scary thing? Some men actually participate, which only feeds the delusion further. The attention economy turned into an addiction, posting half-dressed photos for likes while complaining about being sexualized, recording clubbing videos at 2 a.m. and talking about not feeling safe, filming breakdowns to gain sympathy from strangers. It's not about expressing emotion, it's about monetizing it. Victimhood became currency. The sadder the story, the more engagement. The more dramatic the betrayal, the more followers. So now everything becomes a tragedy, even when it's self-inflicted. Breakups become abuse, disagreements become gaslighting, boundaries become control, and genuine accountability becomes emotional violence. Therapy language, once meant for healing, is now weaponized. Words like narcissist, manipulator, love bomber get thrown around casually until they lose meaning. Not because everyone is toxic, but because accepting personal responsibility is harder than blaming astrology, childhood trauma, or society. Meanwhile, the dating market quietly adjusts. Men are stepping back, observing, calculating. They're realizing the risk-to-reward ratio is broken. Provide too much, and you're used. Provide too little, and you're shamed. Try to lead, and you're controlling. Try to compromise, and you're weak. Modern dating became a game where men lose by default. But here's the twist. Good men aren't fighting anymore. They're leaving, logging off, focusing on careers, friendships, hobbies, peace. And when they disappear, the same women who ignored them panic and ask where all the good men went. They never left. They just stopped volunteering for disrespect. And the unraveling has only begun, because everything built on delusion eventually collapses, especially when reality shows up uninvited.
The most dangerous part of this entire phenomenon isn't the hypocrisy, the entitlement, or even the double standards. It's the fact that so many women genuinely believe reality will bend around their preferences forever. They've been told since childhood that life owes them a dream, that the universe will deliver a perfect man simply because they want one, that effort and accountability are optional. And for a while, social media made that illusion feel real. But biology doesn't scroll. Time doesn't negotiate. The dating market doesn't care about empowerment slogans. I've seen women reach their mid-30s, still convinced they deserve the same attention they had at 22, still expecting endless male pursuit, still insisting that options never expire. The shock hits when suddenly the comments slow down, the DMs disappear, the men they once rejected now ignore them, and reality delivers the bill for years of delusion. And instead of reflecting, many respond with rage. They blame society, misogyny, patriarchy, men, capitalism, God, anyone but themselves, because accepting that choices have consequences requires a level of self-awareness social media never taught. The irony is brutal. The same women who once demanded traditional treatment now ask why no one wants to build a family. The same women who mocked stable men now wonder where stability went. The same women who bragged about independence now resent having to face life alone. Meanwhile, the men they overlooked moved on, built careers, bought homes, improved themselves, learned discipline, leadership, emotional control, resilience. They became the exact men those women once claimed they deserved. But now those men want younger, kinder, more feminine women who still believe in partnership, not power struggles. And here's the plot twist no one wants to admit. The so-called boring, average, responsible men, the ones who got overlooked because they weren't flashy enough, were always the prize. But social media convinced women they were entitled to the top 1%, even if they offered bottom 50% effort. And when the fantasy collapses, bitterness becomes a personality.
Look at the cultural messaging. Be loud, be selfish, chase attention, monetize your body, brag about your chaos, demand everything, give nothing, blame everyone. Then act shocked when no one wants long-term commitment. People forget that relationships aren't revolved around slogans. They're built on humility, contribution, sacrifice, and emotional maturity. But modern delusion reframed those traits as weaknesses. Kindness became pick-me behavior. Loyalty became desperation. Accountability became internalized oppression. Femininity became outdated. And now we have an entire generation trying to build relationships while actively destroying the qualities relationships require. The saddest part? Many of these women aren't bad people. They were just lied to. Told that validation equals love. Told that confidence is more important than competence. Told that standards matter more than self-improvement. Told that men should change, not them. But reality doesn't sympathize with illusions. It exposes them. And the exposure is happening right now. Divorce rates rising. Birth rates dropping. Loneliness at record highs. Men withdrawing from dating entirely. Women crying online about having no options despite thousands of matches. People realizing too late that attention isn't affection. Likes aren't loyalty. Compliments aren't commitment. And going viral isn't the same as being valued. Eventually, the delusion cracks. And what comes after is terrifying. Regret, panic, desperation, the sudden urge to settle, the realization that the window wasn't as wide as they thought. But entitlement doesn't transition well into humility, and many end up stuck between who they were told they were and who they actually are. And here's the brutal truth no influencer, therapist, or empowerment coach will admit. Men aren't obligated to catch you when reality drops you. They don't have to save you from the consequences of your own choices. They don't have to rebuild what you spent years destroying. Because men have finally realized something powerful. Peace is better than problems disguised as empowerment. The correction isn't coming. It's already here. So now the real question is no longer about delusion. It's about survival. Who will accept reality and adapt, and who will go down defending the fantasy? Because once the attention fades, once the options dry up, once the masks fall off, only one thing remains:
the truth you spent years avoiding. And that truth is undefeated. So tell me, what's the most shocking, unbelievable example of this delusion you've witnessed in real life? I guarantee someone else has seen worse. Drop it in the comments. Let's compare.